questions about Manqoba Mnqiti, because what was required of the Sundowns coaches to win a domestic cup, at least to keep your job, because the league is something they've gotten used to, and it's also part of their expectation, but they want more than just the league. Magesi, in a competition that has its tagline, Fagugesi, and I have to put this up, Jay, a couple of weeks back, this was thrown my way, not just Fagugesi. It happened to Mamelodi Sundowns that they scored first in the final, but could not keep Magesi out as they found 2 late goals in the game to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat, because everyone and their cat and their cousin and their dog and their aunt and uncle had put their house on Sundowns winning that final, but it was not to be. Jay, what do you make of this upset?
So, Chuck, everything was weighted against Sundowns in this final. I mean, a competition that is called Fagugesi. The tagline is Fagugesi, and Magesi, in their first season in the Premier Soccer League, make it to the final. And we should have figured it out when they handed the loss to Orlando Pirates. The reigning Cup Kings of South African football. Wait a minute, maybe this is a team of destiny. Maybe the stars are aligning, and everything that should bend towards them to win this, they will. And then you have also, Chuck, the situation whereby Clinton Lawson, the coach of Magesi, the only title he's ever won was this very same competition in Bloemfontein against Mamelodi Sundowns. What happened in this particular final? It's exactly what was happening all over again. So the final thing I'll say, Chuck, is the last 3 champions of the Calling knockout, previously the Telkom knockout, they've all come from a goal behind. So the team that has scored first, they've gone on to lose. So, Chuck, there's nothing Sundowns could do. They were fighting against so many enemies from all different corners. Like, there's absolutely nothing they could do. I mean, you go up against destiny. What can you really do?
But the tangibles were what they were supposed to be doing on the pitch. I mean, all the stuff that you throw out are things that, if they're written in the stars, sometimes you can't stop it. But they were playing against a low block. They had, quote unquote, their A side. Maybe Mango would probably disagree with me, but their strongest side to try to beat Magesi. They had chances after chances. Tebogo was shooting for fun. Most of the shots were in target. Ribeiro was there. Shaulila was there. Who else would you want to win you a cup competition? And they just couldn't do that. And I think shout out to Magesi for playing with that low block, that high energy, pressing in those particular moments and playing. They didn't go mano a mano because they knew they weren't capable of doing that. They didn't have the quality to do that. But what they did is they sat deep, and when the chance came to play on the break, when the chance came to play in transition, they did that. And I think in pockets they played quite well in the second half, where they had a good 5 minutes, a good 10 minutes here, and you're like, hold on, wait a minute, what's happening here? Question marks still come and are still there for Mamelodi Sundowns when it comes to dealing with crosses. It was there in the Rolani era, still there in the Manqoba era. I think they.
But also, Chuck, this is how this team score goals, right? Yeah. They scored a similar goal against Pirates. They scored a similar goal against Kaizer Chiefs. They get it out to that left-hand side. The cross comes in, and somebody's there waiting for the header. But on a real sense, right? Throw out the team of destiny stuff, and let's look at Mamelodi Sundowns. For me, Chuck, I told you this last year, at the end of last season, rather, and I focused it on Rulani Mokoena. This was still when we thought that he's going to continue as the coach of Mamelodi Sundowns and things that he needs to prove coming into the year. But very clearly, this is a Sundowns matter. Such a strange team, Mamelodi Sundowns, because perennial champions in the league. But then they get to the latter stages of cup competitions, particularly finals, and they cannot convert the result. And for me, Chuck, the question then still remains, and what I'm looking at these boys as is these boys are champions, but they're also chokers like simultaneously, because it's four cup finals, 4 local finals in a row now that they've lost, right? You may have wanted to forgive the results against Orlando Pirates, but we go back to last season's MTN8. Peter Shalulile misses guilt as chance. Themba Zwane misses a guilt as chance against Pirates in the Nedbank Cup final. In the last minute, you concede the goal, right? In this competition, in the Calling knockout, every single round leading up to the final did not concede a single goal. And then those problems of dealing with crosses rear their ugly heads in the biggest moment. And this is then something you can also try and translate into their performances in the Champions League. Great in the group stages, but then when the pressure is turned up a notch, they're not quite the same, because when you do look at the stats from the game against Magesi, Sundowns had 80% of the ball. They had 20 shots. They had 6 on target. You could spin that fairly at that and say that they were unfortunate. They play that game 9 other times and they win it 9 out of those 10 occasions. But then on the one occasion where you're supposed to win it, they don't. Because and the thing about cup finals, Chuck, cup finals are won. Like, it does not really matter what's showing up on the stats. If we want to project what Sundowns are going to do for the rest of the season, you can look at those and you say those are good signs, But when it's really asked of you, and because it's a different kind of pressure to play in a cup final versus the games you play in week in, week out in the Premier League, I still believe that winning the league is harder than winning a cup competition. But there's also the caveat, Chuck, that it's a different kind of pressure. Because I promise you, Sundowns in the games they come up against the Magesi in the league, they probably win both of those games, or they win in a draw. Chuck, they probably are not going to lose any of those games because it's not the same pressure, right? Because in the league, you can live to fight another day. Whereas in the cups, you have to bring your A game, and even when you've brought your A game, you need to find a way. You talk about Teboho Mokoena and those shots that he took. And those are low probability chances because he's shooting from outside. But if the stadium was full and he was wearing Bafana colors, that would have been a different thing altogether. And I mean, that's the other thing that worked against Sundowns, right? That stadium was not full, and of course we can't expect to get the best of Teboho Mokoena under those circumstances, because we know when the brother tends to show up. But for me, Chuck, it is still the question that's out there for Mamelodi Sundowns, that what is your BMT like? Like, what are your hearts like, boys? Because you get into these high pressure moments and teams snatch your heart, and there's no response. So that for me is the question. And the thing is, it's funny to say this, but like, this actually is Sundowns' heritage, because they've lost the most cup finals of any team in the PSL era. That's 15 now. So it's not something that started now. But while we're talking about this iteration of the team, that is something they have to answer. They have to answer that in the Champions League. They have to answer it in the Nedbank Cup, because, as I'm saying, well, yes, you can go swimmingly and have the convincing victory against Kaizer Chiefs, not conceding any goals. But then where's that team in the cup final? Where are the 4 goals in the cup final? Where's keeping the goals out in the cup final? Because you can't just chalk it down to, well, you were just unlucky. Nah, find a way.